Hello, good evening, and welcome back. So marriages among opposite-sex couples, also known as marriages, fall to a record low. Yes, it's one of these things again. It's like we should include S into LGBTQ so that we can have straight and actually have full representation. So as with anything where it is a pure number, of course, what matters more is done per capita, so done per 1,000 people, for example. And yet, as it is decreasing despite the population increasing, then it's even worse than its first thought. So I say it's a record low, as the total of 235,910 opposite sex, which I will refer just as marriages were registered in England and Wales in 2017, a decrease of 2.8% compared with 2016. Obviously, that's a few years out of date, but given that we've had a downward trend since 1972, of which the number has fallen by 45%, according to the ONS, then I think it's safe to assume that it'll be decreasing now as well. However, of course, it is one of those things whereby, seeing as the religious side of it has decreased significantly, now, as they mention at the end, that only 22% of all marriages in 2017 were religious ceremonies, whereas civil marriages have outnumbered religious marriages every year since 1992, that if it's other religions coming in, of course, Islam, for example, that their marriages may not be recognised due to them deciding to use Sharia law and using their own law courts and their own ceremonies instead of trying to assimilate into British culture, then it could be higher. But seeing as if we're talking about native population and it not being above repopulation rate, then we understand that the decrease in marriage is also a sign of that. Not only that, of course, given that there's also the horrible guilt about how humans are destroying the planet, and therefore we should be responsible and not have any children so that the humans can die out instead or be taken over by another culture. Love twinning it with white guilt. Why not? So, seeing as the religious aspect seems to be almost completely removed from it, it does really lead you to question, well then, why are people getting married in the first place? Because surely, at least as it has been historically, that you would have marriage done. If it's religious, then it's in the eyes of God, so it's an expression of your religion that you want to be together forever, even in the afterlife. If it isn't, then it's more a business arrangement. For example, as we've seen in monarchies, that they'd be marrying into each other's families in order to unite those countries. Or it could be further back to be tribal, or for different castes, whatever it could be, then it's more of a business arrangement. Okay, well, seeing as we don't have such aristocratic families marrying like we used to, and that the religious side has also dissipated, then what is it? Well, you remove the religious side, so it's now a business agreement. So then what is the result from this business agreement? Well, it's basically just saying we're going to be together. We're going to have the state get involved in this personal affair. So we're almost inviting them into our bedroom, despite saying that the state should never be in your bedroom. And then also saying that means if we try and split up, then we're going to make it more difficult, which is understandable from a romantic perspective of saying, hey, you and I are shackled to each other, so let's be completely honest, because there's no running away, we're together now, we're stuck together. Except, of course, that isn't quite true. Because of no-fault divorces, whereby you don't have to prove that somebody did something to jeopardize the marriage, it's just, well, we grew apart, we can't be bothered. Most divorces are initiated by women, of course. The biggest reason being dissatisfaction, and why might they be caused by women? Well, it's because of family court laws siding with women, creating them in order to defend women for a hell of a long time. The idea, of course, had noble causes in order to right perceived inequalities, but the pendulum has just swung a bit too far, which, of course, then, as the saying goes, when a man leaves his home, he kisses his wife goodbye, and when he leaves his wife, he kisses his house goodbye. We've seen various egregious examples, including like Anthony Cumia, for example, the radio DJ, who, when he divorced, he had to, and still has to, keep paying his wife, I think it's about 6 figures a year, every year. Of course, she had the house, and she has a new boyfriend, of whom he is then, therefore, by extension, also paying for. And it is another thing of which the debtor's prison, of course, was removed, that if you said you would pay somebody and then you weren't able to, you used to be thrown into prison. I then thought, this is inhumane, let's not do that. Except if it is for a divorce, and then the man has to pay the woman, of course, if he can't make those payments anymore because of differences in work arrangements, for example, he can then be thrown into prison. And the same goes with childcare. That yes, it can be set by a judge, taking into no account how the lifestyle of the man might change. If the lifestyle of the man does change, then he'll end up in prison, essentially a debtor's prison. Right, so seems to be it's a very one-sided agreement that men, all they have to gain is maybe a slightly happier partner. But of course what they have to lose is to know that then the woman holds everything over the man. That if the woman decides to leave, she can take the children, the house, the money, ruin the man's reputation, because divorce lawyers are very prone to have very nefarious intentions by saying, well, if you're in a divorce with a man, then just say, launch some sexual abuse scandal, and doesn't have to be proven, it's okay, your word against his. That'll sway the judge, because they're either got in-group preferences to help out the women, or they're white knighting if they're a man to help out the women, in which case you're going to get a better deal anyway. Of course, there has been something to try and make it more equal, which is why, of course, there's been a whole uproar about Adele's $280 million divorce with Simon Konecki to try and say, well, hey, this isn't fair because he didn't help out. So, well, he has his own money, not as much, sure. But yes, you're right. It isn't fair, is it, to have access to half? In which case, seeing as you wanted equality, maybe you want to decide what equality means and change your ideas on it. That'd be nice, seeing as some of the more successful women are now having to pay their ex-husbands as well. That makes a nice change, but I don't think it should be the case in the first place. But of course, we're also seeing that the decrease in marriage, because schools are made in a way in order to support girls. It's done to help their way of learning, and then any sign of independence, disagreeableness, which is mainly more a male trait, is seen as disobedient, in which case they're reprimanded and their grades reflect poorly because of that. So we see girls outperforming boys. What does this mean? It means more going to university, it means more graduating, it means women actually out-earning men in the pre-30-year-old range by about £1,000 a year. In the UK, women are out-earning men. And because of that, they're then saying, well, I still want somebody who's taller than me, smarter than me, earning more than me, in a better social position than me. Which, funnily enough, means all that's left is beauty. That all a man can look for in a woman is that she looks nice, because she's already chosen everything else that he needs to be better than her at. So they kind of put themselves in their own position. But of course they'll complain about it, because why not? But with that being said, that if the woman is looking for a man that's better in all those ways, and yet she's been given all those opportunities through quotas and through things being set up for women, then of course she's not going to be able to find a man better than that. And seeing as then the family courts and divorce courts are set up to favour men, as more men get aware of this, then of course the MGTOW movement grows, and throwing a load of red pills here, that men, of course, not going to want to be in a relationship with women, definitely not getting married, because it is just a one-sided business relationship. You can see, of course, that depending on where you are, that you don't even have to be married for these divorce laws to take into effect. That if you cohabitate for more than 6 months, then you could also be seen as technically married, and therefore the woman is entitled to half your stuff. It could be seen as if you're just together and other people would say that you're together, then you're seen as married and they still have access to some of your items. So it is set up in a way to try and help out the woman in any way so that she can still have access to your stuff if you decide to break up with her. But it is normally safer, if you are paranoid about this, to not cohabitate. Obviously, if you understand the risks and think that the female in your life is worth losing half your stuff, if not more, then take that risk, and hopefully she'll understand that it's romantic and not cynical. But yes, and then just to wrap up, again, seeing as the whole idea of the religious side of it has disappeared, and getting the government involved isn't a very romantic endeavour, that because it is a business agreement, there's a great anecdotal story, I know, but I know it's an anecdote, but it does show at least that it's possible, so that's good. A new guy and a girl, been together 11 years, they were fine, and the woman kept saying, oh, we should get married, we should get married, we should get married, we should get married. And the guy eventually went, yeah, 11 years. Yeah, okay, we'll get married. Cool. 3 months later, she divorced him, so she could take half his stuff, and now she's with another man. Perfect. So obviously not all women are like that, but the law is like that, and that's what matters. The example shows that the law allows that. So, you know, if you love someone and trust them, and you're willing to take that risk, then do. But obviously, as we see here, people aren't willing to take that risk, and therefore they're just tapping out. Women obviously are more so becoming the old spinsters, as we're seeing with Emma Watson, and so they're more sad about it. So think of the Whammons even more, seeing as they're not getting married either, and therefore they can't have children, and they just become lonely old cat spinsters, because the simps, of course, the men who are not appealing to women. Although, of course, if the woman is on the pill, then they are more attracted to a beta male, a man who's more feminine. So fair enough. But for the women who actually want a proper man, well, any sort of that is toxic masculinity. So of course that can't stand. So hey, until we sort this out and have some more actual equality and allow people to go their own way and to have their liberty, then we will continue to see this trend, and therefore, of course, there'll be an increase in saying, oh, we've got to bring in foreign cultures, even though we say that they are far too patriarchal, because actually then they do have families, and the women in those cultures aren't getting increasingly unhappier like they are in England, even though they're supposed to be more equal, almost as if women just want things done for them. Funny that. So hey, until next time, have a good one.